You're on.
Awesome. Yeah, Remy and I had a fantastic time at the George Hacks Health Innovation Hackathon. It was 2-day event. Um, I went home after Saturday. I'm not sure about Remy. And I know the students, many of them, I think, stayed there all night. I heard some got 3 hours of sleep, some got no sleep. So they just got, I think, really into their projects, into the competition. Um, I heard so many inspiring, I had so many inspiring discussions with the students. Like they are all in on the. By the way, the main theme of the hackathon was the UN SDGs. So though it was health focused, um, every project needed to try to tie in, what SDGs they were focusing on. So even though they were health focused, some were like clean water or clean air or land. So anyways, it was really cool. Um, we submitted a problem statement, Remy and I, related to our working group, and we had at least two teams. I'm not even sure. There might have been another team that that really jumped in and tackled the problem and did more than I expected that they were going to do. Um, so I thought we'd give them an opportunity. And before they start, Remy, I just want to give you a chance to share your experience. It was my first hackathon, by the way, and I'm embarrassed that it was my first hackathon, but it was so much fun. It was definitely not my last. I'm going back next year, and I'm planning now on participating in the UN Open Source Week hackathon because it was just too much fun. It was amazing. Remy, take it away.
Yeah, no, just plus one to everything David's saying. We had a great time. Really inspiring to see all the student projects and really inspiring to see those students here with us today. And they are the future and they are the stars of the show. So I don't want to waste too much more time. I would much rather turn over the floor, maybe give them some quick introductions, talk a little bit about their approach, and then maybe even if they're willing to do a little bit of a demo, if they can demo some of the stuff that they built or share some of the repositories, so that we can share that more broadly with the SDG working group. That's what I was hoping we could do today. So I know that Daria and Divya, I believe, as well. Divya, were you a hackathon student too, or no? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I met so many
Oh,
different
no.
people. I met so many different people at the hackathon. We're,
It's Aniket, I believe. Aniket Patel, but he's not here. I saw the name. So Aniket and not Aniket, sorry, Anket and Dhairya were the people who you met from the group that I saw. Yeah.
yeah,
It
Yes,
looks like Anket is online.
great.
So
Yep, yep. Hi, hi guys. I'm on.
awesome.
All right. So we'll
should
just
I
do,
stop? I'll stop my share. And
yeah,
Remy, do you want to talk to the problem statement really quickly? Just so everyone
sure.
follows
Yeah.
it.
So the problem statement that we put out was basically the premise of sort of this group, right? That where there's a challenge in identifying and supporting open source projects that are addressing the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So we had an idea within the working group to put up a repository that described that gave like one of the implementations that we put forward or an example of how to add this repository metadata in a form to add that repository metadata to the projects and sort of like be like a sorting hat. So that was the what we put out, and then what the students decided to do with that went way above and beyond. So we're excited to give them the floor and hear a little bit more about it. Um, how many of the student teams are here right now? I know we have at least um, one group, so Ankit's group, but is there anyone else from the other group that's here today as well?
They reached out to me and I gave
We'll
them
get,
a last minute notice. I think my internet's not so good right now too. So I gave them a last minute notice this morning because I wasn't feeling too well this week. Maybe from burning the candle at both ends.
yeah, same.
Um, So yeah, I'm not sure they were able to join because of the last minute notice. But I did include at least one of them in the working group Slack. So hopefully they can present next meeting.
Yeah, we'll get them in the next one. But I guess then we can give the floor over to Ankit and Daria, and y'all can take it from here.
Hey, hi everyone. I'm so happy to be here and grateful to Remy and David for giving us this opportunity to present our project here. So just I will give you some brief of how and what we are doing. So UN is 17 SDG goals, and it is trying to, make a significant progress till 2030. And how they can do this is um by ensuring that more and more projects are being done, and people contribute to these projects and they take these projects ahead. So in this way they will try to achieve their goal by 2030. But for any topic or any project, they know solution exists in open source right now. Okay, but we know till 2024, like, there are 300 million GitHub repositories, and they know that solution exists there. But how can we find that solution? There is no standardized way as of now to find the solution that exists on the open source platform on GitHub. So we are here developing a standardized way where user will be able to commit JSON or metadata document in their repository, and as a result, whenever a target, we all know that SDGs have various targets also. So using our automation process, which is going to be done in 30 seconds almost, and our metadata will be automatically uploaded in the a repository, and now on just one click search, the project will be able to found, and as a result, the investors, the researchers or developers who are looking for this repository as of now, they'll be able to find this repository as soon as possible and contribute to it. That will, as a result, the reach of these repositories or the solutions that are existing will be widened, and development can be done on it. So now I will my teammate Ankit will be able to show you the demo of the project.
Hey guys,
I think he may have dropped. Oh, no, there he is. All right.
yeah. I'll just share my screen and give you a demo of what the project looks like. Green is good. So first, we have created a landing page. This is very simple, like what we are doing, how we are doing, and what's the main goal of this project. We have specifically tailored this project for SDG 3 because that was the requirement of the problem statement. And I will further discuss how we can use this for other SDGs as well. So let me first give you a demo for SDG 3. This is a simple form, and user can fill this form to generate a metadata. What we are doing is we are doing two new things as discussed by Remy. The original idea was proposed by them as well. Let me show you. So here, the Shad area is my roommate, and he is an open source developer. He has created a Medicare project. Now with this, he can first we are fetching the README file, the commits, and other issues or text we can find anything related to text we can find in the repo. Then we will use analyze with the AI. What is this? It feed all this information along with a schema JSON, which is our questions. This will feed to an LLM model, and what it do is it will return a data which should be pre-selected in this form. So I or anyone does not have to manually fill this form at all. And if a data is not written by LLM, then they may have to fill this. As you can see, it's all pre-filled by LLM, everything in here. Now the main part, we are generating the generate JSON. It will generate a JSON with all the as well as an option to download it. It will generate a JSON, and with this JSON, pretty much what the problem statement asks us to do is complete. But what we are additionally doing is creating a PR. So what will this do is this will do a couple of things in the background, and it will create a PR to that repo, and user just have okay. So the main issue what I was facing is that, yeah, since I'm not a collaborator in my teammates project or anyone's project, the open source. So what we have to do is I have to manually create this. I have to manually click this button, create pull request if I'm not a collaborator. But if I'm a collaborator, then this PR will be generated automatically. I don't have to even click this PR request. Now the Harry will get a PR and he'll just have to accept it. Since it's a very low stake commitment and it's just a metadata, then he will have no issues adding this to his repo. And what this will do is allow other developers or other organizations to find this project, which is related to Medicare something. Now, additionally, we are also providing a registry, which is similar to SDG. What? Sorry, David, I forgot his DPG, right? Yeah, DPG. I have also created this. We have also created this dashboard where we are listing all the existing projects which have gone through our questionnaire. So this latest one is Shah Dhairya Medicare. It lists everything we need to know, and it also has filters, etc. Like that, searching all the classic stuff of filters. So yeah, that's it pretty much for a demo.
Fantastic, guys. That's a really good, really short demo. You guys, I see why you guys won our track, right?
Yep, yep.
Yeah. Congratulations. And what was the prize?
It was $1,000 in Amazon gift vouchers.
$1,000 and something else?
Nothing. Yeah, just $1,000.
That's great. Well, congratulations. That was well earned. Can't believe you did that much in a weekend.
Yeah. Actually, you know what we were planning to do is on Saturday morning, like we were just planning to look at our problem statements, and we could not find anything interesting. So this was a little bit interesting to us. Then when we talked to you guys in the room, right? Then we came and we discussed like why you're doing this, what is the need. Then you explain like this is a very first step in measuring metrics for the SDG goals, and it's very important we do that, and we build things on top of this. So we like understood like importance of this and how we can how the other users can like save their time. Now this project does two things, like after your feedback and all the ideas, this project does two things. Like uh, first, it does save users time. He does not have to they does not have to fill the questionnaires. Like it might take 10-15 minutes depending on the question, depending on the form length. And we are doing that in a couple of like minutes, not minutes, 30 seconds, I have to say. And the second thing we are doing is they don't no, yeah. They don't have to, yeah. What was the second thing? The create PR. Yeah, they don't have to like manually fork the repo, do a commit, do a push, create a PR. It's just happening in a single click, couple of clicks of button and 5 seconds. So that's we are saving time and efforts of the product owners and maintainers. Since they don't have incentive to do such things, they might. So we should remove some barriers if we can do that.
Does anybody have questions about their technical solution or about next steps? Go ahead, Rami.
Yeah, I just want to say that like I was literally in a meeting about 15 minutes ago going through the complications of how to deal with how do we send a PR automatically when we're not part of a repo? Like that was something I literally am doing like at work right now. Like we are walking through this process. So, we would love to look at the work you've done with the GitHub API and the browser and really take a deeper look and figure out how that workflow operates. I think that this is easier to do in the public sphere, like with public repos that exist, and we're also doing it inside of the private side of things and trying to understand how to do an inventory of private repos, which is a whole nother workflow that we have to figure out too. But the public to public flow is the easy one. And if we can get that, that's where we can share things. And, that covers a lot of the problem statement that we put forward of how do we get projects that are doing this type of work aware of each other, and then how can the CHAOSS project help to measure the impact of how that stuff is going. So, this is just incredible work you folks did in a weekend, and it's absolutely the kind of stuff that we're hoping to leverage here in our work as well. I put a link to a repository. I think that's the repository that you folks worked on. I put it in the chat right at the beginning of when you started to demo. Is that the place where people can look at the code?
Yep, that's it. That was
Great.
cool.
And that's released open source, right?
Yeah, anyone can use that.
Excellent.
Also, like we would like to help as well if we can. Like I did a couple of things to create a PR so that I don't, if I don't have access to the repo. But GitHub API, if I'm not wrong, does not allow us to create PR, because then we might spam, like the other users might spam the PR, and it might have some issues related to that. So what I did was if I'm not a PR, if I'm not a collaborator, I'll just provide a link to the branch. With that branch, the GitHub automatically provides an option to generate PR. So just a single click ahead, I make a solution to work around that.
Oh, very interesting. That's something we should take.
First, I will try, like if I will try to create PR, but there are errors, then this is the second fallback mechanism we have. So if they are collaborator, good and well and good, a PR will be generated automatically. They don't have to do anything. So if they don't, the fallback mechanism exists.
Yeah. So you asked about next steps, and if anybody has any other questions, I'll stop talking and give the floor. Otherwise, I have ideas about next steps.
Go for it, Remy.
Cool.
Actually, this weekend we did bother you to give us ideas. You're eating their brains are dying.
So for us, right? What we're doing in our inventory effort is the first step is to get the metadata into the repository. So we're sending the pull request that has the code.json metadata. Then our team has repository hygiene checkers that we run on the repositories to see whether they meet baseline hygiene requirements. Included in those hygiene requirements, we are also gathering metrics. And so we're sending information back to the Augur project and querying Augur to get metrics about the contributor numbers and the security vulnerabilities and stuff like that. So another layer of this is once we know there are files that have a code.json file, we can come up with some standard sort of CHAOSS actions that we can run on repositories that aren't necessarily directly related to the SDGs, but are related to the sustainability of the projects themselves as like a start. And then I think that each of the SDGs, we talked about doing like keyword mapping, and we talked about doing some other things to try and figure out how we would measure the impact of the SDGs. Each one of them has indicators, and another layer deeper is maybe mapping out where those indicators are in like their national or state systems so that we can draw the lines between the data. So like one of the ones in SDG 3 is like infant mortality rate, right? In the United States, that statistic lives within some data set somewhere. And like we would go and we would find that, and then we could figure out at least like, okay, here's where the infant mortality rate is for this project within its scope. And then it's up to the project sort of to figure out whether or not it's helping to move the needle, they'll have to come up with their own case. It's like hard to automate that automatically, but at least we can figure out what indicators map to which data sets, and we could have an inventory of those. And maybe that would also be another good contribution that we could make to getting deeper into mapping the open source impact to the sustainable development goals themselves. Like, these target indicators were identified by the UN. Here's where you can look at that data so that if you are measuring that kind of stuff, you can compare it. And I think that would be like, that's maybe like 3 layers of next steps, but that's sort of where my head is at with thinking about how we apply this into the future.
I love that, Remy. One thing I'm so grateful for about the hackathon and what I've learned about the value of a hackathon is that you can, like, in theoretically, I have these ideas spinning in my head, but until I see a solution, I really struggle with, like, what do they mean? What do my ideas mean? And now that I see, like, multiple solutions from 2 different teams, I really have I can ask questions, much better questions. I can start to imagine much better, like, oh, this is how it would work. This is what we can do. Oh, can we try this or that? So I'm just so grateful that you guys pushed us along with this project. Remy, when you were talking about the chaos metrics, one of the things we talked about with the hackathoners was, we want to not be a burden on the maintainers. We want to like give them a value proposition. Like, how can we help them, and not make them do more work. And so is that one of the things you're thinking about? Is you like provide a report somehow to the maintainers, and maybe you give them ideas about, what their health is or how to improve it?
Yeah. So I want to give a huge shout out right now to one of the thinkers in our space, Nadia. Nadia Asparova, in her book, Working in Public, she has talked about this concept of something called extractive contributions. So extractive contributions are when you send a PR that takes more time to review than the amount of work that you are contributing to the project. So you can create this like debt by submitting pull requests to already underfunded, undersupported, overworked open source projects, right? So it's really important for sustainability sake that when we're sending these PRs, they require as little review and as little double checking as possible by adhering to best practices, testing, keeping them really tightly scoped, all the things that you can do to make sure that your contribution is really a contribution that is a net positive, right? Basically, you just look, all the buttons are green. It's really clear what we're doing. The stakes are super low. It's a true contribution to solve a problem. And all they have to do is just say, yep, that looks good to me. And they click the button. So that's primarily what we're talking about. And that's really where like open source program offices also need to be thinking about that on the grand scale, on the program scale, right? Like too often a regulation or a company policy will come out saying like, thou shalt do X, Y, or Z, and then say, but there's no funding and there's no one to help you with that. So all the time, we as contributors and taking that contributor mindset need to think about how we can contribute without adding burden and how we can actually make less work by doing the things that we're doing. And I don't know, did that answer all the aspects of your question, or did I miss any of it?
No, that was perfect. Um, I'm wondering how people think we should move forward. What's I have many more questions, about like the underlying AI that you're using and any costs associated with it and accuracy and, how much details we want and just a billion design decisions. Now that I see it, I'm like, okay, do we want to do this or that? Or, like, how do we move it forward? Um, so how well, I'll let you take over, Remy, but I'm just wondering, like, I'm used to it in my old way of working. We'd have a design session and we'd all sit in a room and kind of hash out a plan. Is that something that we can do, or Remy, what are your thoughts, or anybody else's thoughts after Remy?
Hmm. Yeah, I've been talking a lot, so I want to wait a moment and see if anybody else wants to go first. Okay, so part of and I saw Sean mention this in the chat previously as well. Not only are we worried about the burden that we bring with the contributions themselves, but we also want to be conscious of the other burdens, like the financial burdens, right? So some of the decisions that were made in this particular solution rely on generative AI, which is like very effective at saving time, but also requires some kind of financial component. So identifying places in the project where there could be a barrier to deploying this in other places, or where like Ankit and your team have made a personal expenditure to make sure, like, you're probably paying for some API key to do that, right? It doesn't cost nothing. So identifying where the financial burdens are, so that if we wanted to redeploy this, like, what are some of those barriers for us as a project like the CHAOSS community, right? And then maybe being like, okay, well, all this is an API call. Maybe we swap it out to a local API call for something that's hosted, or maybe we as a CHAOSS community start thinking about, like, if and when, like, doing any kind of model hosting or paying for an API key would make sense, or if anyone in the group, I know nothing about, you know, the financial and organizational and infrastructure of CHAOSS itself. I have not been at that level, but you know, we want to reduce the burden as much as possible and make this redeployable. So there might be places where we want to keep that stuff because it helps to make the project efficient, and there might be places where we might want to swap that out because it creates a financial burden. So I think you're right, David, that having some kind of like follow-up meeting where we talk with the project maintainers and figure out what the path forward looks like. If we wanted to keep hacking on this, and like what resources and infrastructure, et cetera, are available in CHAOSS. I think another strategy that we have had in our OSPO is we are always looking towards community events as like our milestone moments for when we want to engage and share the work that we do. So I had mentioned at the hackathon that the United Nations Open Source Week, there is another hackathon coming, right? And encouraging the students at GWU to apply for that, because come on, like you're doing UN-SDG work in open source. The UN Open Source Week would be just a logical next step for that. So I think like meeting up in another meeting, doing some project planning, maybe figuring out how much time we have between now and then, and any goals that we might want to have to prepare for that hackathon in the event that the teams are selected and want to participate, so that when we get there, like, we're in a good spot to deliver something that we can show to that community and to get something ready in time for that. I think that would be a good pairing of a real world opportunity along with the goals that we have, so that, you know, we are somebody's getting something, right? Everyone is getting something. The students are getting a great experience. CHAOSS is getting good code. The United Nations is seeing the agenda move forward, and, you know, we create a win-win-win situation for the community.
Remy, you get me so riled up and excited when you start talking like that. I'm like, let's do it. Let's go. Claire.
So first of all, I want to apologize. Can you hear me okay? Because I'm on my, yeah,
Yes.
okay, great. I want to apologize for coming in late. So I may have missed this at the beginning, but and I love the idea of everything you're talking about. So, but I'm also thinking about the folks who can't come in person to a hackathon. And everything you've just described, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like really great learnings, that whole discussion around how not to do a extractive contribution, yada yada. So I'm just wondering, like, are we also like documenting that as a kind of a set of principles hackathons? I'm assuming we are. I was just looking for the link there in the minutes, and I'd love to have a look at that as well as the actual outputs, looking at if you're thinking about doing a hackathon for the SDGs, here are the things you need to think about, like that kind of meta information. If I've missed it, I apologize, but thank you. Oh, thank you. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Remy.
I don't think you missed it. I don't think we have like that was the first time we asked that question of each other, and I think that's the first time we really answered it. So big +1 on capturing that somewhere, Claire. That's a
But
good
separately.
general, yeah, separately.
Mm.
And to your point that not everyone will be able to participate in person, what we did with our form site repository is we tried to come up with a list of issues, lots of them, as many as we could with like user stories, so that if there were a lot of teams, they could all pick different issues and work on them together. One of the lessons that we learned from doing that was that like our team had opinions on how we would do the implementation, and it turns out that the people at the hackathon may not share those opinions. So I think somewhere in the middle of identifying lots of issues that we might tackle so that even remote people who want to participate but can't be there in person can work on a piece that doesn't rely on anybody else, so we can do lots of parallel work is important, while also not being too opinionated about the implementation so that people can be creative and work with what they want to work with. I see Cassie's hand.
Hi, hi. Yeah, apologies for coming in like a little late as well. But yeah, just wanted to comment like super inspiring, and what Claire just said, like sort of let's say like guidance document or some sort of documentation on like this is like what you need to be aware when you wanna do like a hackathon for SDG. So like okay, and I work at WHO, which is part of the UN, and like know about this UN open source like OSPOS for Good event like quite well, and it's my opinion. So usually a lot of let's say like public sector or public good like practitioners like don't like hackathons, me included, because it's you know it just it's not a lot of things come from there are actually usable, and then it's actually a lot of burden on like people, and then it kind of gives away the fun to people like who think about it for like 24 hours when it's usually it's a problem that I have to deal with for like 10 years, and then none of these issues are actually solvable with hackathon. However, given that, like being inspired by what Claire just said, and just wanted to acknowledge that me and Mary Blessing, yeah, will be working on the like practitioner guide for the SDG like contribution, and we really want to. Sorry, Mary Blessing, I'm speaking on behalf of you when I say we. We really want to include that part
That's
there.
fine.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, sorry. We didn't like run it, but yeah. Like these are the things to be aware of, like when you want to run a hackathon, or yeah, when you want to get external contributors that's not, let's say, part of your team, that you cannot rely on beyond 24 hours.
Well taken. I think there's two layers here. The one layer is like our hackathon participants, like Ankit and Daria, who are building the things, and then there's the organizer layer, which is like yourself. So we, at least me, I don't know about the rest of my team, but I'm more than willing to help contribute if that's helpful, to talk about what we learned from the GWU hackathon on the practitioner side and connecting it into some of the concerns you, which are absolutely valid. And then also like the project planning side, where we have like our submissions of the hackathon. So two conversations going on, they're great. And honestly, like I wouldn't mind doing another 1-minute demo for the folks that were not here to see what Ankit and Daria built, because it didn't take long to do the first time, and just so that you can get a sense of what was built, because a lot of times hackathons do not have like a very usable or effective solution, like you said. And I think that if everyone else is okay with it, I think taking that extra minute to do it again would be useful.
Absolutely. Just one last thing. I think Michael, like Downey, is not here, but I say in our sector, one of the most impactful grant was shutting down a project grant, because we had a lot of like what I call zombie like projects that's like out there, like no one's maintaining, but it collects like quite sensitive data of like people, usually like the overseas development aid recipient. So yeah, so like that's kind of the problem that we have. So yeah, but very happy to sort of like include this part in the practitioner guide, like so that organizers are more aware of, and then perhaps the problem that they want to solve in hackathon can be like better addressed and like be like, okay, we're really interested in a prototype of something, but like we will like definitely not be deploying it and really like collect like actual people's information. Which is also part of, let's say, like a low maturity on many organizations that are hosting this. That's like, I don't think it's meant to be a production system. If someone built it in 24 hours, like, yeah.
I'm excited to, we can do the demo again too. I agree. It was very, very quick. I'm a little bit confused by this conversation because the hackathon was a GW student-run hackathon that they've been running for 7 years. We were participating in their hackathon, and then the UN is going to be their hackathon, and I'm very curious to know their rules and how they're going to set it up. Me personally, in my first hackathon, um, I understand the competitive juices in making it competitive, but it's a little bit antithesis to the open source way. And we even saw people not wanting to share, early because they don't want to give another team an advantage. And so I'm very curious how the UN Open Source Week Hackathon is going to manage that problem. And in my dream, the hackathon wouldn't be as competitive. It would be more collaborative. And I don't know that if that's possible.
Is it a bunch of computer science students organizing it?
No, they were, I mean, different kinds of engineers and medical experts.
Okay. I'm in a college of engineering, and there's yeah, it's sometimes the removal of competition has to be sort of shepherded very actively. I'll say that.
Yeah, we had it, I mean, open source component, but not, it
Yeah.
wasn't like the theme of this particular one.
Right.
Remy, go ahead.
Yeah, really quick. So your point about archiving projects and zombie projects is really well taken. Part of the point of doing this inventory work and adding the metadata and using CHAOSS metrics is to identify which projects are end of life or which ones are not mature so that we can elevate and uplift the ones that are. So, very well taken, Cassie. We believe that the problem that we posed where we're doing the inventory of projects with the SDG goals can help with that. And OSPOs generally take that kind of approach of let's find where we can invest our time into the mature things, and let's find the stuff that we can end of life and we can archive so that people know where the contributors can put their time to have the most impact. And I will pass the floor over to the hand that's raised.
Hi, can you hear me? Great. So I'm Henrietta. I think this is my first time joining this meeting. I don't know if Remy, you keep talking about a video you wanted to show. I don't know when it will be shown again, because I think it will help put things in perspective. I've done some work with the UN. I interned with UNICEF. I did a fellowship with UNFPA. I coordinate youth activities with FAO, WHO, WOAH, and I did an implementation of an agri-tech program with WFP. So about the concerns that are coming up, when I was at UNICEF, they had this accelerator program. I wouldn't say it wasn't necessarily a hackathon, but it did have a hackathon component. So you have your teams that actually have projects that they're working on, and then in addition to it, a challenge is given for them to solve, which is within a short period of time. So I think maybe the concerns would be addressed when the specificities, or should I say the specifications of the hackathon are made known. I don't know if that is already known. I don't know if that's already been drafted. About the concerns about sustainability or having, projects that are just, for show and don't do anything. We have the same issue at the UNICEF Accelerator Labs, where you have people actually have like about $10,000 investments, and then you follow up, and then they don't exist anymore, or the website is down. You don't know where the people are, etc. So I do understand the concerns of it's been a 9-day wonder and then that's the end. I think one of the things we can do, maybe on the end of the person who is working on that aspect, is to look at the sustainability of it, where participants will know that, after the hackathon, there should be some form of follow-up to whatever project it is, so that it's not like we have too many solutions. I always say too many tech solutions. I think that at a point, I feel like we can just go back and pick some of the solutions and actually implement to solve the problems we are facing now. But I think that is a very fair point about the issue on sustainability. So that aspect too can be tackled. But I'm curious to watch the video. I don't know if it will be played today or another time. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to let everyone know that Krishna just joined. They were also one of the teams, a member of one of the teams that did our problem statement. So Krishna, welcome. I don't think you will have time for you to demo your solution, but in 2 weeks or in one of the future meetings, we'd like to invite you to demo your solution as well. And Ankit, if you don't mind taking over again and doing a quick demo,
Yep.
repeat, that would be
It's a
fantastic.
very short demo, as you said. It would be hardly a minute. I'll do that. Okay. So this is our landing page where we are discussing what we have done and what this project is about. You can get more information about this project. So let's get into the main core of the demo. So we have built this questionnaire form where this will generate a metadata JSON, which is the primary requirement of the problem statement that we faced. Now let's go ahead and do this. So the users are generally owners and maintainers, which have to do all these things. So we have to save their time and also have to make sure they don't have to know a lot of things about SDGs. That's where this feature comes in, where we are fetching not only README as commit messages, all the text we can find except code, because that can be a very huge chunk of data, and we might have to make a couple of API calls to just get all the data. So we are just focusing on README commit and some other issues we can find. Then we are doing analyze with AI, which does what it does is pre-fill out the form according to the text we have found in the GitHub repo. So they just have to manually check, like, if this is the area of health, areas of focus is mental health or not, emergency response or not, then just have to manually check and update this. And this fit. Now the main part, generate JSON. This is our meta JSON, which they can store as well. Now the second most unique thing which we did was to create a PR, which after discussing with Remy and David, like they mentioned, like they don't owners and maintainers don't have any incentive to add this metadata or JSON in their repo. So we have to make their work easier. And this create PR button does that only, where a PR will be created for that repo. Now, since I am not a collaborator in the repo I have used in the form, I have to manually do this, create pull request and create pull request, so that the repo will get a PR. But if I was a collaborator, then I won't have to do anything else. I just have to create PR and PR will be generated dynamically. And that's it for the demo. And since I have the stage, I'll have to discuss this AI part, where Sean and David showed a similar concern about the accuracy. So we discussed this after the hackathon, and David mentioned something similar about accuracy, and we can't trust the LLM to do all of these things. So what we concluded was, like, if the LLM was about 80% accurate, then it's good enough, right? So we are saving, instead of going from 0 to 100, we are at least making sure the user is at 80 level, so that they have some baseline of the questionnaire form filled, and then it's a little bit more work to get the full 100% accuracy. And next technical solution that I proposed was, like, we can add a feedback loop to this. So let's say a maintainer, there is a JSON generated and they have updated something or other, like the owners thinks it reduces material mortality. So what will this? It will create a feedback which we can feed that to the LLM, and with more responses, the LLM will get fine-tuned, and it will. I am assuming it will increase the accuracy of the model, and with time, it will work great. So yeah, that's it for our demo.
That's great. This is just a random thought off the top of my head, but you could do something like have it create a good first issue that any contributor to that project could then go in and like verify that it's, accurate, the JSON that was created or something like that. This is so good. This is such a good start. Thank you again so much. We're running up on time. Are there any last questions or thoughts? I'm sorry, we didn't even get to everything. So everybody know the open source, the UN Open Source Week is June 16th to 20th. I think it's official now, and the registration form is linked in the page there. Whoops, did I freeze? No, okay. And then I just wanted to, at some point, I would love for this group to talk about how we want to participate, if we're lucky enough to go, whether it's a presentation, a panel, participating in a hackathon. I would love to be a part of whatever we do. So we can talk about that maybe next meeting. And then Cassie, do you want to just talk really quick about the backstage panel that's coming up next week?
Yeah, very happy to. So there is a Boss Backstage panel with a number of people from this group. If anyone is in Berlin and would like to go, I'll get you a ticket, which I think is normally like over 200 euros. So spread the word if anyone would like to come. I believe it will be all recorded and then available up there. But it's but it's a couple of different people from here, David, Angela, John and Michael Downey, that's not here, I believe, John and Michael. So people come from different let's say like sectors like academia, to like research software, to like intergovernment organization, all talking about impact measurement in open source, like to their context. And we know that no one can solve this problem in like 40-minute panel. So it's more to like start dialogue. And we'll make sure to add, like to basically tell people about this group and how to join.
My favorite call this year was I was on a call with Angela and Cassie talking about this, and they were saying, this is a really hard problem. People who have done like a tiny bit of this problem have won like a Nobel Prize. So our goal now is to win a Nobel Prize from the panel.
No pressure. No
No
pressure.
pressure. Awesome. All right, thank you all. It was great. Thanks for the hackathon presenters. Really excited about this work. And yeah, have a great day. Take care, everybody.
I would like to add a one point if I'm not too late.
Please,
Yeah,
please.
like you mentioned, like we should participate in the UNS the hackathon. So me and my teammate are definitely in on this. In fact, for this semester, our main goal was to participate in as many hackathons as we can, because in undergrad we did lots of hackathon. But the last semester we weren't unable to do hackathon because we were more focused on learning data structures and algorithms, which is useful for our jobs and stuff. And this semester we are focusing on hackathons. So yeah, we are definitely in on as many hackathons as we can. In fact, in a couple of weeks, there is a hackathon in Georgetown. We are participating. It's in AI in healthcare. So we are definitely participating there, and any hackathon we can find actually.
Awesome. Good luck. We'll keep you included. You're invited to this group now, so keep coming to the meetings and help us move these tough problems forward. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Take care.